Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media with me, Salailo Makwidiri. The time is 9:41, and we'll be having a really, really interesting conversation that's coming right now. We are what 28 days before we head out to the polls, to the national elections, and this is a very, very interesting segment that I like having, where we chat to various political parties and their leaders about their mandates and why are they contesting, why you should be voting for them as we lead up to the upcoming election. So basically picking their brain about what's currently happening, a bit about their manifesto, and just picking their brain on the lay of the land of South African politics at a very, very critical time, 30 years into democracy. And joining us in a bit, he's no stranger to South African politics. He's a apartheid activist, also a former Secretary General of the ANC, is also the former Premier of the Free State, and he's joining us via StreamYard, the current leader of the African Congress for Transformation, and Dade Ace Magashule. Dade Ace, thank you so much for joining us on Salam Media, and really, really excited to be engaging on this conversation with you.
Well, Slailo, good morning. Assalamu
alaikum. Yes.
Good morning, Dumela, Sanbonani, Molweni. Today we are celebrating, I don't know whether we should celebrate, but globally, workers are celebrating May Day with various events, including rallies, marches, demonstrations. And I'm happy I can see all over the world, same workers and students are also marching against the genocide they see in Gaza. And we just want to say, even if we workers in South Africa are celebrating today, May Day, there is no real celebration because the same government of the day has retrenched in SAA a lot of workers. It has retrenched a lot of people in post offices. It has retrenched a lot of people in Eskom. The private companies are also have actually retrenched many workers. So the gains of freedom are actually being reversed. But as ACT and other progressive forces, we are ready to ensure that we defend the gains of freedom, including the rights of workers on May Day, including fighting for peace and freedom. And peace and solidarity, as we are saying, our pillar, it's about solidarity, it's about prosperity. And we wish all those people around the globe, especially people in Palestine, we say the struggle, aluta continua.
Mr. Magashule, you are the current president of the newly formed African Congress for Transformation. A large part of your life you spent it with the ANC. Just tell us a bit about that decision. I mean, there's more than 300 political parties that you could have joined since your departure from the ANC, but you chose to start the African Congress for Transformation. Wasn't there any other party that you could have joined, that you feel speaks the language that you speak and you can resonate with? I mean, there were rumors at some point that you'd be joining the EFF, but that didn't obviously come into fruition.
Well, we are one organization which is about Africans, because with us we embrace what Pan-Africanism is all about, and we are about not just South Africa, we are about the continent of Africa, and we do define Black African, Black Indians, Black colors within that context, as well as white Democrats who stays in this country, who are there for radical economic transformation, radical social changes, radical transformation of the economy. That's why we are here, and that's why young people and old people actually encourage me to ensure that we establish this party. And with all my political and historical background, I think the struggle continues.
And I don't think anyone can separate you, from the ANC. I mean, it's a political home that you spent a large majority of your life in. That's where you were educated about politics. Then someone might ask, whatever you were, involved with within the ANC, you were a very prominent member there. Why does it feel like you didn't influence as much change as a prominent member within the ANC, that you feel like you can do now, as the president of the African Congress of Transformation? Is it possible, to not be able to have, I mean, you criticize the ANC a lot that you're a part of. Is it possible to influence change at a newer, relatively smaller party than you would have done at an organization as big as the ANC?
Well, remember what we fought for during years of struggle, during the dark days of apartheid, fighting against apartheid colonialism. We were fighting for over more than 300 years. We fought for freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of movement, all basic freedoms. And one of those freedoms was a freedom to belong to whatever party you want to belong to, freedom to associate with whatever political ideology you want to associate with. Of course, I have been privileged to work under President Tambo, the longest serving president of South Africa, even before the unbanning of the ANC and other political parties. I served under Nelson Mandela. I was in the National Executive Committee of the ANC when Mandela took over, President Mandela took over. When President Mbeki took over, I also was privileged to serve in the National Executive Committee under President Mbeki. When President Zuma took over, I was also directly elected into the National Executive Committee. I was not just ex officio. And when President Cyril came in, what people don't know is that nine of us at the Free State State House, when we are warned not to bring back Cyril Ramaphosa, we decided to do so. And I said, I regret that part of history. But nevertheless, we respected the President Ramaphosa. And 2017, I was elected Secretary General of the African National Congress. But from 2017 December until now, the ANC ideology politically changed. The ANC became closer to the ideological enemy of our struggle and history and enemy of the people. They became closer to the Democratic Alliance, the DA, which represent white minority. And that's where I think things started. The ANC could not implement the resolutions of the 2017 December conference, the nationalization of the Reserve Bank, expropriation of land without compensation, and many other resolutions. Retrenchments continued in SABC, what we call privatization of state-owned enterprises. It happened at a very rapid speed because the press and the intention was just to privatize, was to loot, and the ANC moved away in terms of internationalism, part of one of the pillars, 4 pillars during the years of struggle, internationalism and solidarity. During COVID, we argued with the late, may her soul rest in peace, Jesse Duarte. Why is it that we can't use interferon, which boosts the immune system of people, and the army in South Africa, South African National Defense Force, was using interferon. And we're lucky to use it, some of us, because we are privileged to interact with the Cubans. We are privileged to interact. And why couldn't we use the Chinese vaccine? Why we couldn't use the Russian Sputnik? You could see that things have changed. And when we agreed with NUMSA and Cabin Crew Association that there won't be retrenchment, SAA, retrenchments went ahead. So the National Executive Committee was not in charge ideologically in terms of government, because the ANC government employees derive their mandate from, and that's the reason. And I don't regret finally being expelled, because of my conviction, my ideology, and believing that the struggle continues. Solidarity for all, especially Africa and the general globe.
Let's talk a bit about, those changes that you say you started noticing within the ANC. Why was it so difficult to try and influence, within the movement? Was it really difficult? Was it a space where, there were no democratic processes? And you couldn't challenge, the changes that you were seeing. It feels a bit difficult now to try and influence change outside of the ANC, with all respect to, the African Congress for Transformation. In comparison to the ANC, it's a relatively newer party. I'm sure your ambitions might be big, but in reality, compared to the ANC, it's small, but there's also room for growth. So I want to touch on that. Wouldn't it have been easier to try and stay within the organization and stay within, close, to decision makers, and to try and influence change within the ANC?
Well, remember, because of my conviction, political ideology, adherence to what we fought for throughout years, there was one person in South Africa who then said that Magashule must actually be expelled. And we continued, whatever few and however people, how many we were in the National Executive Committee, we continue to push. We continue to say no retrenchments at SABC. We continue to say we must work with Russia, we must work with China, we must work with Cuba, we must work with Venezuela, we must work with Palestine. We must work with all our friends who were there during years of struggle. You have seen after election, and that's why I say the term of Nelson Mandela, the term of President Mbeki, President Zuma, things were fine. And the other term from 2017 December, that's why a lot of ANC leaders were captured. It was no more about sacrifice. It was no more about no compromise. It was no more about solidarity. It was more about money politics. Money politics crept into the party. And remember, I was expelled because one person in the country who is part of the white monopoly said Magashule must be expelled. So what choice did I have? I was just expelled. And I don't regret being expelled, because what I fought for, what I stand for, what this great movement called the ANC stood for, is no more what that glorious movement of Oliver Tambo, Kresani, Moses Kotane, and others continue to fight for. And that's why we are continuing. But remember, we fought for freedom of speech, freedom of association. So you can't blame anybody for belonging to whatever and affiliating with any other political party. You might think that we are weak. We are, because we are young. We are almost 9 months old. You can see the political things are actually unfolding. There are so many parties. You can see there are parties growing because that's what we fought for. Democracy we fought for, and that's why this party is going to continue to grow. And if you read, even yesterday, Star, if you read it, I think it's an article written by one of the journalists there, Makwakwa, you could see what the American embassy is involved in. Many of leaders going there, coming out with money. Many of them going there, spying and selling people out. You could see, and we still want to understand. Remember, the DA wanted America to come and observe elections. We were a little bit perplexed and deep-seated concern. Is that what is the American ambassador doing at the offices interacting with IEC? So it's quite embarrassing, but the struggle continues. You will never kill my conviction to Black Africans, Black Indians, Black Coloureds, in particular Black Africans generally across the globe. And that's why I don't understand when people refer to people of our skin and color. They refer to them as foreigners all the time. Never, no one talks about white foreigners. And I think that's not what we have fought for. We are one, we belong to Africa, and the struggle must continue. And that's why I say, even on this Workers' Day, how do you celebrate it when there are so many retrenchments, when certain unions are captured? The union leaders, after leaving COSATU or whatever workers struggle, where do they go? They become parts of boards of big companies, leaders who have fought for struggle, who have never even worked for any employer or even self-employed. Where are they? In boards of big companies, conglomerates. What are they getting? Thousands and millions of rents. When we are all in the trenches, and then they pound this theme of corruption. There's a lot of corruption, and I think with time people will see. And then people wanted us just to get rid of us, because we are actually disturbing the agenda of white monopoly, the agenda of imperialism. But I want to say to all people in South Africa, Africans in particular, blacks in general, white Democrats, remember, there is this, can't you see that the glorious movement is gone? So let's come together with progressive parties and change and make sure that we give the hopeless hope. That's what we are supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Speaking, on the elections, because I can see this is where you're going to touch on now. South African voters, have grown conscious, about who they're voting for, things like track record, and whether or not a leader has had, showcased abilities before to lead and lead positively, are now things, people that are voting are starting to think more about consciously, instead of just voting for people because they have, struggle credentials. Looking at your time in the Free State, that you spent as the premier there, do you think it inspires confidence in the upcoming elections? Do you think you've left the province of the Free State in a better situation than you found it, and that kind of gives you the voter motive, and gives you some sort of a track record to say, this is what I've done as a premier of the Free State, and this is what I can ultimately do when I'm voted into power come the 29th of May?
Well, when the ANC, during the time of Jacob Zuma, the man which people say is not educated, an organic intellectual, I know sometimes people say I'm promoting MK. No, I'm talking about historical facts. That's when the African National Congress then declared and prioritized. They had 5 priorities, and education was key. And even when you look at our T-shirt at the back, what do we say? Act against education exclusion. That is number one. Number two, act against economic exclusion. Number three, act against privatization, act against landlessness, act against load shedding and water shedding, act against crime and corruption. During our term and my term with the collective, because I never believe running government and leading alone. What did we do? Education was prioritized in relation to the manifesto of 2009. So what did the Free State do? First thing we did was to say education is priority number one. Therefore, we actually we said all our students must go to TVET colleges. All our students must go to South African universities. And guess what? When we wanted to take students to medical universities, medical schools, no medical school in the country could take more than 200 medical students, no single university. And guess what we did? We interacted with the globe because we had friends global. We interacted with Russia, we interacted with China, we interacted with Turkey, we interacted with Germany, we interacted with Belarus, we interacted with Bulgaria, we interacted with Rwanda, we interacted with Kenya at some stage. We interacted with Cuba, we interacted with Venezuela. In Venezuela, we sent students for maritime studies. In Cuba, we sent 302 students for comprehensive medical studies. In Cuba, they are back. They are all in South African university hospitals. If I was there, I was going to take them to clinics because primary healthcare is what Cuba specializes on. We took 284 students to Russia to study medicine and nuclear energy and agriculture. Same with Belarus, same with Bulgaria. We took a lot of students to study IT in India, Hyderabad. We took a lot of students to study, 14 of them in Germany for engineering. Others went for IT engineering specialism in Turkey, island of Madeira. We took a lot of students. We interacted with Africa Connect, which was which is still carrying a program of young people of Africa meeting every year in Rwanda. Nobody has actually done that. I may be missing a lot of other countries where we took our students to. And in all South African university, all South African TVET colleges. And I visited with the team and mayors and business, we visited all South African universities as they start and when students were about to write examinations, the same, because we're inspiring and motivating and agitating students that education is key. And through education, if you look at successful countries like Rwanda, successful countries in the world, when you privatize education, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. But with time, as I say of now, you see the fruits of that. Number two, health was number two. And you can go to the Free State.
Before we move to health, you know, you're still talking about education. The last time we heard about you know, your education foundation, I think you know, when it popped up into to the news and a lot of people got to know about it, was you know, that issue of the Turkish students that you mentioned. You know, there were, you know, rumors that and you know, a lot of articles that came out that, you know, some of them are about 25 million in Turkish debt, you know, regarding, you know, education. Some of them were kicked out of universities and dormitories. What's the latest on that? Can you provide insight? Are you still paying for the kids' education? You know,
all the Turkish students of the Free State Bursary finished their schools. And when I was
that's why I'm asking. Are you still, you know, giving kids bursaries to go study abroad?
when I left, and then there were students throughout South Africa who were given not bursaries by government, and some of them went there and studied on their own. We kept on trying to assist them through business and all that. And I can tell you, those 72 have finished their studies. I think we are left with 12. There is no crisis, and students are very, very happy. They are appreciative of what we have done for them. So there is no one who owns any university. And as I say, they have completed. We have a last batch of about 12 students, and they will be completing their studies by March next year.
And we having comments that are coming in, particularly from the people from your region, the Free State. I'm going to read just one because they are more or less similar. It's Witumelo Martins. She's asking a very simple question: what is the plan to stimulate the economy of the Free State, in particular, should the ACT be given a chance to govern?
Well, you stimulate the economy through education. You stimulate the economy by investing in education. Now that we have from Bulgaria and Belarus agricultural specialists, people who have actually studied agro-processing, because we have been saying we need to beneficiate our products. So we have those people, we have studied such. We have those people who have studied nuclear energy, because we foresaw that there will be a crisis of electricity. So nuclear energy was the first option, and we believe in mixed energy. So with all that, we prepared students who can work in the mines to beneficiate our products, agriculture to add value through beneficiation. So we are completely ready. That's why we say we always listen, we learn, as act, and we act. So with our experience in government, remember, I'm not the only one in ACT who has this experience. There are a lot of people who are mayors, who are MECs, who are leaders, who are in exile and outside, and who we have professionals, I can assure you. We have medical doctors, we have engineers, we have specialists of IT, we have people who can actually do a lot of things. We have comprehensive medical doctors, agriculturalists. So we are ready. We're not going to start thinking and what. We are going to act, because we have that experience. And we are not captured, and nobody can capture us. That's why we're even struggling resource-wise. But what do Amadela Mofa do? Those who sacrifice for the hopeless, for those who are unemployed. We are actually saying we are the party which is going to ensure that you work, jobs must be created, and we are going to intervene as government in the economy to ensure that our people benefit. We are going to do what the Afrikaners did, to ensure that Eskom, Post Office, Post Bank, all these things are not privatized. This so-called PPP, private-public partnership, it's a privatization in disguise. We're not going to do that. We are ready to ensure that we have state-owned enterprises.
Mr. Magashule, the issue of corruption is one that's very, very, close to a lot of South Africans' heart. We feel like a lot of the progress that the country can make is halted by corruption. 2 weeks ago, you attended the Asbestos case. It began. Don't you feel like in a lot of ways this could be an Achilles heel, leading up to the 29th of May, and you ultimately, getting those votes? And secondly, you mentioned that, there's no merit for this case. Do you in any way feel like it was one of the weapons used by the ANC to target you? What are your thoughts regarding these two questions that I asked?
The Americans spend a lot of time in a small town called Clarence. American intelligence, American whatever. You have seen the recent story of IOL about the American embassy. I was targeted long ago, because remember, I was the first Secretary General after the unveiling of the African National Congress, who did not come from a union which was created by white monopoly. And I'm not saying everybody who comes from a national union of mine workers, but that has been the trend since 1994. And I broke that record, that history, because of my ideology. My ideology resonates with the real African National Congress, which was there with our people in trenches during years of struggle and fighting against colonialism of a special type. So, no, that case, it's a made-up case. It was meant to just make sure that I don't come back. And that's why I was prevented deliberately so not to be in the national conference of the ANC in 2022. I can assure you that things are going to be better. And my blood is still black, green, and gold. Remember, black, green, and gold is not about the ANC. It's about the people. It's about the land. It's about the economy. And we are there for the workers on this May Day globally. And I can assure you, my brother, that's why there's no even a state witness against me. They tried my PA. They tried other people who will call into the box to say to them, implicate this man, implicate this man. There is nothing. I did not even know anything about the Asbestos case until it surfaced in the media. But because I was targeted as a revolutionary, and I've said it's 4 years now, almost it's going for 5 years. And I can tell you, even on June 14, the case is going to be postponed and postponed and postponed. And that's why they deliberately made me accused number 13. So that I stay there, I stay there, I stay there, I stay there. There's no witness. They are trying to force, they are even trying to force and say to my PA, implicating. We will surprise people in the case. I wish that case continues, because I will then expose what has been going on and will summon some people into the box.
So you're saying, when you say expose, are you saying that there was corruption that you know? What do you mean when you say expose? Expose who and what exactly?
We will expose the truth. We will expose lies. We'll expose those who are against progression. We will expose those who don't love our people, who have actually lived in abject poverty for many years. Wait and see, so that I don't say much.
Okay, I'm sure we'll be waiting and seeing there. But then, going into the elections and the case itself, do you in any way feel like it might hamper, your chances of getting significant amount of votes? And what can you do to try and circumvent this?
No, not at all, not at all. I'm not a product of the media. I'm not a product of white monopoly. I'm the product of struggle. All the years I've struggled with our people. I'm still in trenches. I can see them. I can feel their pain. Those who can't go to school, I can see that they can't access NSFAS. I see a lot of children of freedom fighters, those who fought against apartheid as a part of Mkondo Wesizwe, as part of Azangla, as part of the people who fought against freedom for many years, who went to exile before many of us went to exile. Those who have sacrificed their children can't even access the military money from South African National Defense Veterans Department. They are struggling. Even yesterday, 2 parents of their children phoned me to say, we are not accessing that money. My child is doing the second year and all that. So I can assure you that no, there is no. You will see the real people of South Africa voting for African Congress for Transformation. You will see the people of the Free State. You will see the people of Gauteng. You will see the people of South Africa voting this African National Congress which we are on the ballot. We are there in the Free State, we are there in Northern Cape, we are there in Northwest, we are there in Gauteng, we are there in the Eastern Cape. We are on the ballots. We are still fighting in the Constitutional Court against some of the cliches of the IEC. Whether we win the case, we lose the case, but we will definitely win the case. We are moving forward, and we have confidence that our people will vote us. Watch the space and see us in action. We are going to take a lot of provinces in South Africa, and then we are going to make a serious mark in the national politics of South Africa.
You know, the upcoming elections, many are saying, you know, they're going to be defined by coalitions. And at the heart of coalitions is, you know, your quote unquote smaller parties like yourselves, you know, that are making a ferry into the ballot in these elections. Would you be willing to work with the ANC should that you know, opportunity present itself? Is it a party that you'd get into bed with in a coalition and give them their vote if they don't get that 50+1 majority?
We will vote with people who are not captured by imperialism. We will work with people who still care about our people, who don't go to our people when they want votes. And that's why you don't hear me talking about bad about any leader. I'm focusing on African Congress for Transformation. But if somebody diverts me, I think I've been too quiet. I'm prepared to also confront fire with fire. But you can't, when a political fool attacks you, you retaliate. You leave that pool to die in the dustbin of history, and people will see people for who they are. So no, we are not a small party. You haven't seen. We are contesting for the first time, and we believe that we are not a small party. We are a big party, and that's why we are going to work with progressive parties which are going to push the agenda for economic inclusion, the agenda for education inclusion, the agenda for the landless, the agenda for the homeless, the agenda for young people who are in drugs. We are going to integrate them. We're going to take them and ensure that we have programs. On the 18th of May, we will be launching our election manifesto, because you don't launch an election manifesto when you have not listened to people. When you have not practically learned, then you act. So we'll be saying to our people, we have learned, we have listened to you, we have heard you, and now we are now going to government, we are going to act and implement what you have actually been crying about. We are very confident, and we are going to win.
And you know, the issue of you know, the genocide in Gaza right now has been very, very central, you know, to you know, the politics of the day, and many feel like you know, a party stance on Palestine could ultimately you know, have a big impact on how voters you know, make that decision. Do you feel like the ANC has dealt with you know, the issue of Gaza properly? Do you think it has been dealt with decisively? The government of the day, you know, made you know, an unequivocal approach in condemning the Israeli occupying forces. And if the ACT does come into power, how would you do it differently?
Well, remember that was, and it has been our historical mission. Remember what our ancestors said, forebearers said during the Freedom Charter. Remember what we have been, the African National Congress have been standing for. Let's give credit where it's due. In this case, I think, even though it came late, but we should give the ANC and the South African government credit where it's due. And I think their stance is what the ANC stood for, is what the people in the globe stood for. It's solidarity. And that's why one of our slogans is it's about solidarity, freedom, and prosperity. So, yeah, I think the government and the ANC has done very well. And a lot of people, and I've seen even globally, politics are changing. Students at various universities in the US, in the UK, across the globe, politics, there's no more, it's about multilateralism. And I think that's what we also stand for. And I think it's good because we believe in peace, we believe in solidarity with the oppressed. And until Palestine is free, I think the world won't be living in peace. So peace unto the people, and Aluta continue.
And just lastly, before I let you go, a lot has been said about the IEC, leading up to the elections, and how they've treated various political parties with different gloves, so to say. What's your stance on the IEC? ACT has had interactions with them. There's a ongoing court battles, as you mentioned. Are you confident in their handling of the elections? Do you feel like we'll get a free and fair election?
When the IEC was ready to give us a day, 24 hours, even 2 hours to deal with the cliches which were not caused by us, we were surprised when the Electoral Court could not, when the IEC was saying they have no offer to do that. And that's why we went to the Constitutional Court. People have been asking me, and they wanted me to comment about what is this American ambassador doing at the IEC head office? I said, well, I don't know. But I said, I think the IEC has run elections since 1994. And I still hope that they will do what they have been doing. They must hold their integrity and credibility. And the fact that we will, as ACT, have 23,315 party agents at all voting stations across South Africa. Our eyes will be wide open, our ears will be wide open. We have agreed with other political parties that we need to watch the space. Sometimes you don't just leave things until the last day. We have IT specialists who specialize in software. We have IT specialists who specialize in many other areas. So we'll be watching every move. And we want to say to those who will be waiting for IEC, we don't want to see any car entering the voting station and the booth is not open. We don't want to see anything. We are allowed to have our own seal. And we have said yesterday we met and we have agreed that we are going to buy our own seals and we are going to encourage all other parties to have seals so that we seal the boxes of IEC. And then we leave everything to the hands of IEC to deliver credible elections. We still believe that it's an organization with integrity. Let's watch the space, and all the best to South Africans, all the best to Luta Continua in Palestine, across the globe. Let's give hope to the hopeless. Please, on the election day, even on special votes, 27, 28 special votes, and then the 28, 29, we are making a call to everybody, Muslims, Hindus, people of South Africa, black and white, especially the poor, the vulnerable, the rich, and those who don't have, professionals, police, army, teachers, taxi owners, business people, your last hope. This is the real election of 1994. Wafa, wafa. I heard Comrade Mzwake Mbulu saying, walala wasala. Vote Act on the 29th of May, on the 27th of May, special votes, on the 28th of May, special votes. Vote African Congress for Transformation. Vote ACT. Vote for this organization of the people.
All right, we're going to leave it there, Mr. Magashule. Thank you so much for giving us your time and giving us a bit more insight on ACT and what the party is all about. I will be, keeping a close eye on you guys, and all the best. We'll chat.
I'm still jumping like a tennis ball. I'm about to see be on the 29th.
And ambitions, where, what would be, an outcome that would make you happy after the elections?
I never have any ambitions.
Yeah.
We look at who's who, and whoever has our agenda and the plight of our people at heart, we will actually work together.
All right.
That space, we are going to take a lot of
Ace Magashule giving us insight into ACT. Very, very interesting conversation. He says, whoever is for the poor and is for the struggling people, the Black South Africans who are going through difficult times, will be open to work with. I just wonder if the ANC would be one of those parties that ACT would be open to work with. But I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation with Ace Magashule, getting very, very useful insights on his time with the ANC as SG and also the leader of ACT now. You convinced? Ace? X? ACT? Do you know? Yes? Your vote is your secret. All right. Really, really interesting conversations there that we had, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us and engaging with us on different platforms. It's been a wonderful show, and I'm going to be with you again tomorrow morning as we discuss all the issues that are affecting us, whether it's internationally or locally, but most importantly as we lead up to the 29th of May, when the country will be heading up to the election. It's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much for joining us. And Xolani, really, really appreciate you behind the desk, and the producer of the show, Nasrin Naidu. But from me, Salailo Makwidiri, and the rest of the team, it's been a pleasure. Till tomorrow, it's goodbye.